monitoring system. And this will utilize the FAO Food Insecurity Experience Scale. And this will be compiled and generated every 3 years. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And
From the Department of Justice, State Counsel Arthur Abat.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chairperson, and to the members of the committee po at saka sa representatives po na present. Although wala pa po kaming finalized na, wala pa po pong copy ng finalized copy ng draft namin. I asked my superiors about the bills which are being initiated today, and because of the noble intentions naman po ng committee on human rights, I think the department has no problem in saying that, of course, we are also extending our full support. And as to any other further recommendations or comments po na we could come up with, siguro in the next few days po siguro, if we're given a chance, then we could finalize our draft on that matter and then have it signed, send it to the committee po. As soon as possible po, sir.
thank you.
From the NDRMMC, Attorney Rafael Romualdo Recalde.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chairperson Abante and honorable members of the Committee on Human Rights. On behalf of Yusek Harold Cabreros, the Executive Director of the NDRMC, greetings of resilience to everyone. In reference to the House Bills number 239, 3050, 3125, and 3173, and 3545, the Office of Civil Defense humbly expresses its support on the wisdom on the proposed measures which aim to provide a comprehensive legal and institutionalized framework for the right to adequate food for every Filipino. The proposed measures are timely and responsive, which recognize food security's linkage with disaster risk reduction and management, specifically on disaster response and in preparation for the impact of impending disasters. With the kind indulgence of the committee, the Office of Civil Defense would like to recommend that for the consolidated bill, that it make mention on the state of imminent disaster in relation to emergencies, to provide adequate food also for the implementation of the new law, the state of imminent disaster law that was just approved last September 2025. Further, we emphasize that the proposed legislation reinforce the institutional role of the NDRMC in coordinating disaster-related food security actions and to ensure coherence with existing DRM policies. We hope these inputs would help in the implementation of this bill, and we thank this committee for the opportunity to give our inputs. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes.
From the National Food Coalition, Ms. Rhea Teves.
Afternoon, Honorable Benvenido Abante Jr., to the honorable members of the Committee on Human Rights. Magandang hapon po. May I please read the manifestation of the National Food Coalition. The National Food Coalition is an organization established in 2015 to push for the achievement of zero hunger in the Philippines. First, I would like to thank the Honorable Congressman Benvenido Abante Jr.
Pakilapit po yung microphone.
Okay na po. First, I would like to thank Honorable Congressman Benvenido Abante Jr. together with Honorable Representatives Robert Nazal, together with Boji D. III, J.B. Bernosh, and Brian Daniel Po Yamansares, who are pushing for the critical and historic bill to eradicate hunger in the Philippines by enabling the passage of the Zero Hunger Law. I would also like to commend the committee secretariat who are very supportive of the bill. Like every Filipino, the National Food Coalition is deeply concerned about the persistence of hunger in our country. Hunger remains a significant challenge. With a global hunger index score of 18.3%, which is actually 20 million Filipinos in 2024, the Philippines suffer from serious hunger. Just this June 2025, a social weather station survey found that 16.19% of all Filipinos, meaning to say about 18 million Filipino families, have experienced involuntary hunger, meaning they had nothing to eat at least one in the past 3 months. This is considerably contrary to human dignity and a violation of human rights. For a nation like ours, hunger of this magnitude is actually unacceptable. It is shameful. Poverty and hunger always go together. We see the cycle from poverty to greater poverty occurring every 20 years, creating successive generations who struggle for basic needs. The root cause of hunger have not been thoroughly eradicated. But let us be clear about the human cost, especially for our children. A 2025 UNICEF report warns us of the serious level of stunting among Filipino children. Stunted children are smaller, more vulnerable to illnesses, and their cognitive development is severely affected, resulting in poor school performance, which means that in the future, these children will have lower productivity and earning potential as adults. So, magkakaroon po tayo ng mahinang populasyon. Adequate food is the bedrock of a robust society. Hunger does not just affect one family. It has both short-term and long-term impacts on the entire nation. The simple truth is this: our country lacks a national comprehensive policy on hunger and poverty eradication. While we have the Magna Carta of the Poor, it is not a framework on right to adequate food based on UN human rights principles and declarations that can rationalize all government legal legislation and programs. Meanwhile, the 1987 Constitution has no explicit provision on the right to adequate food, specifically on freedom from hunger. This is why the National Food Coalition initiated and campaigned for the Zero Hunger Bill. The adoption of the proposed Zero Hunger Law is the national food policy we need to rationalize the legal framework governing food. This legislation will first provide a legal framework to progressively realize zero hunger. Second, guarantees the right to adequate food, encompassing availability, accessibility, cultural acceptability, and freedom from adverse substances. Third, it will rationalize all existing policies and laws regarding food in accordance with the right to adequate food. This law is built on human rights principles, including participation, accountability, non-discrimination, transparency, human dignity, and the rule of law. We have committed to the UN Sustainable Development Goals to end hunger and eradicate poverty by 2030. To fulfill that commitment, we must have the Zero Hunger Law. The National Food Coalition recommends the adoption and implementation of an integrated, comprehensive national food strategy that improves local food production and ensures food safety. The Zero Hunger Law is that strategy. Its proper implementation will allow the Philippines to overcome the historical trend of inequality and will make a major impact to poverty reduction. We call on all our legislators, our partners in government, and all concerned Filipinos, let us pass the Zero Hunger Law now. Let us end the tyranny of hunger and restore the dignity of our people. Thank you so much. Can I just comment on two aspects of what the DA said and the DBM position papers also said? First, with respect to the DA in terms of area coverage and in terms of targets, I think at human rights level, there is a progressive realization of the right to adequate food, meaning to say it depends on the capacity of the government and the country. Unti-unti po ang realization ng right to adequate food, depending on the capability of the government. Yun po yung gusto kong sabihin sa DA. Hindi po yan static na kailangan, since 50% kailangan makamit natin ito. Hindi po ito ganon. And number two, to what DBM said with respect to the Executive Order 101. Actually, sir, Executive Order 101 is very, very, how can I say this? In lieu of the law that should be passed by Congress, the executive branch of the government under Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles initiated the Executive Order 101 to create the Interagency Task Force on Zero Hunger. We were actually part of framing that framework. But actually, and then it was also continued by President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. on Executive Order 27. But these are executive orders. We need a law to guarantee that the right to food will continue even with a change of government. We need a legal framework to push for zero hunger in the Philippines. Thank you so much, sir.
So huwag kayong mag-alala. We will be gathering all of the comments and talk about it. Committee.
Our last speaker from the United Nations Philippines, Sir Lionel Dabadi.
Good afternoon. With your permission, Mr. Chair, I would like to first give the floor to my colleague to speak on behalf of the whole UN Philippines, and then I can provide some technical details on the FAO side. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, distinguished members of the committee, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to read the statement of the United Nations on advancing legislation on the right to adequate food. The United Nations in the Philippines welcomes the initiative of the House Committee on Human Rights to advance legislation on the right to adequate food. This effort marks a critical step towards fulfilling the state's obligation under the international human rights instruments, including the International Convention on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. This legislative initiative strongly aligns with SDG 2, Zero Hunger, reinforcing the Philippines' commitment to end hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition. It complements the national development priorities under the Philippine Development Plan and the United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework, ensuring that no one is left behind in the pursuit of inclusive growth and resilience. The United Nations values its long-standing partnerships with the Philippines on a wide range of issues, including the right to adequate food and SDG 2. We wish to recall our recent engagement in the legislative process and draw attention to the note submitted to the committee on 16 May 2023 by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, which will be complemented later on by my FAO representative himself. At this stage, we would like to reiterate the following core principles to guide the legislative process that should be fully reflected in the outcome. First, on the human rights-based approach, we agree the right to adequate food is a legally recognized entitlement, not charity. On the 4 dimensions that needs to be fully considered, namely availability, accessibility, adequacy, and sustainability as outlined in the CSR General Comment number 12. Third, on multi-sector coordination, really required to address the right to adequate food and security to ensure coherence due to the cross-sectoral factors and effects of food security. And finally, on the inclusive process, recognizing the importance of broad consultation and sufficient time for deliberation of the proposed legislative measures to ensure coherence and avoid unintended consequences. We wish to manifest our initial substantive observations in relation to the proposed bills that may be further expanded and supplemented at a later stage. First, on the scope. The right to food does not imply direct feeding by the state, but the ability to procure food through one's own means. Second, we wish to emphasize the importance of first undertaking a comprehensive analysis of the right to adequate food in the Philippine context to ensure that national legislation is aligned with the country's specific circumstances and need. On definitions and obligations, we would like to propose harmonization of terms such as hunger and severe hunger with CSR standards, specify immediate obligations under Section 6. Fourth, to recommend the use of inclusive language, particularly persons in vulnerable situations, and to explicitly include small-scale farmers, fishers, and peasants. On the duty to fulfill, we would like to propose an expansion of measures beyond employment and social protection to include nutrition, education, and awareness. And finally, on the penalties, to exercise caution on punitive provisions to avoid reputational risk and ensure alignment with human rights principles. We will be submitting to the committee the detailed initial and non-exhaustive feedback by initial entities that we have received. We would also like to invite the committee to clarify future pathways that would allow the United Nations system to remain engaged in this important process. The United Nations is eager and committed to remain engaged through technical support, for instance, through comparative analysis, human rights checklists, and policy advice. Also in regard to multi-stakeholder dialogue, facilitating consultations with civil society, farmers groups, and development partners, and participation in future consultation within the legislative bodies, ensuring adequate time for evidence-based inputs. In closing, we would like to commend the committee's commitment and urge a deliberative process that strengthens the legal framework while safeguarding rights and avoiding unintended harm. The United Nations remains available for continued collaboration at all stages of this legislative effort. Thank you.
And, Mr. Leonard.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, honorable members of the committee. FAO is a little bit of special UN agencies because we have a full unit dedicated, a unit of lawyers dedicated to the right to food. So basically, what I wanted to highlight in complement of the interventions of the statement for the United Nations is that we are here to help. We have already produced a lot of guidelines, particularly dedicated for the lawmakers. This is part of the statement that we submitted on 16 May 2023, which we are going to provide on these occasions. What we would like to really focus is the need to make an assessment. You don't achieve the right to adequate food in the Philippines as you achieve the right to food in Africa, in Europe, in America, because the Philippines is very special. You have an archipelago of 7,006 islands. You have submitted to typhoons. You have a lot of specificities between the north of the Philippines and the south of the Philippines. So it's really one of the other recommendations that we made in 2023, and we would like to reiterate that it is important to make an assessment on these regards to make sure that you are not just fulfilling the needs of the Filipinos, but you are also taking into consideration the specific conditions of the country. And second, and based on this, maybe the Commission may want to commission this kind of comprehensive assessment on the right to food. And second, I would like also to support the comment made by the Department of Agriculture that this should be this approach to the right to food should be embedded in the transformation pathway for sustainable agri-food systems. It may look a little bit technical statement, but it's very practical. For example, it means that everything is connected when we come to the right to food, from the productions all the way to the consumers. And if you want to tackle the right to food, you need to identify where are located the gaps in the Philippines. One typical example, which is a low-hanging fruits to achieve the right to food, is the food loss and the food waste. The food loss and the food waste is not just a loss of food; it's also a moral problem. And if you tackle this issue of food loss and food waste, then you can easily improve the situations of the right to food. So definitely, we are fully adhering to this element. With this, I really would like to comment again the honourable representative and members of this committee for ensuring this element. Rest assured that we will, whatever support, including technical support you may need, we will deliver, and we fully support this initiative. Thank you very much. Maring salamat po.
Thank you. Now, let's now go to the questions of our colleagues to our source speakers or any. Yeah, Congressman Adjong, you're recognized, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Magandang hapon po sa atin lahat. Mr. Chair, before I ask just a few simple questions, I'd just like to congratulate in advance all the authors who have filed these measures. And I believe most of us here, the members, if granted by the authors, with the indulgence of the authors, would be more than willing to be part of this measure by, including us as one of the co-authors of this measure. So, Mr. Chair, I understand that, and I gather from the explanation of our resource persons that some of them have yet to submit their official position paper on the subject matter. But generally, the sense that we got here is that they're all supportive of the measure. And number two, Madam Chair, I hope that, Mr. Chair, I hope that the direction of these measures would really put into the issue as a matter of state policy, the issue on how we can progressively fight hunger in this country. But hunger and malnutrition may be two separate concerns, but this is not necessarily mutually exclusive. That's why, Mr. Chair, my simple questions would be derived from the background and the community that I'm from. I'm from Mindanao, Mr. Chair, as you all know. Mindanao used to be called the food basket of the Philippines, but with the dismal information that we got, citing BARM in my region as the #1 in poverty and hunger incidents, I don't know if that the epithet for Mindanao still holds true to this day. 48% ata yung hunger rate in Mindanao. Number two, Mindanao is known to be mostly in their areas are agricultural based areas. So I was wondering, Mr. Chair, while I was listening to all our guests, why NFA and NIA were not present in this committee hearing, because NIA would play a very important role in making sure that our irrigable lands would be adequately produced more food in order to counter hunger in this country. So I was wondering why NIA was not here, and NFA, National Food Authority, was also not here present. Mr. Chair, I was listening to the opening remarks of the good chairman, and he quoted a biblical passage. So if I may be also allowed that I can also share to you my own background, especially in as you know, in Islamic belief, we all act actually very strict in our dietary restrictions, no? So I would also like to ask about how food security can also be coupled with nutritious food. Gusto ko pong malaman because I was actually a couple of weeks last Congress, I attended a seminar here, which one of the invited lecturers is actually the sister of Congressman Shell Diokno. I believe she was very, very active in the fight for hunger, no? Itong hunger dito sa Pilipinas. And she made mention about the issue of the nutritious food. It's not really so much about the right, but it is also justice. we don't only feed our people with food, we also feed them with nutritious food. So essentially, that's what halal really means, you know. So, Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask first a few questions. NDRMC and maybe the SWD. I thank Congressman Llamanzares because under his proposed measure, under Section 15 of his measure, Section 3, Paragraph G, he enumerated the vulnerable sectors by which the legal framework for this country to adopt by virtue of these measures would be these are the sectors that would be prioritized. No? I would like to ask NDRMC because it made mention under the proposed measure of Congresswoman Brian, the sector of the internally displaced persons. I understand CHR was also made mention about the IDP. The country is often visited not only by typhoons, natural calamities, but even man-made calamity. Back in 2017, there are quite a large number of people who, were displaced because of the Marawi siege. And up to now, there are quite a lot of families who have been internally, forcefully, involuntarily displaced and moved to other areas. If you ask me, would it still be considered as internally displaced persons? Because according to DSWD, the IDP would only be limited as to the days and the hours by which the SWD will respond to emergency crisis. But in the case of the IDPs, a product of man-made calamities, they could not go back and reintegrate to their area immediately as soon, as quick as 72 hours. So I'd like to ask the NDRMC and the SWD, do you have a working definition of what internally displaced persons are? I'm asking this question because these measures would provide a legal framework for the state to adopt, a comprehensive plan to fight hunger, so that all agencies might have reference in order that they can come up with their program to fight hunger in this country. So based on the status, do you have a working definition of what internally displaced persons are? Stated under paragraph G of Section 3 of the House Bill of Congressman Llamanzares.
You're referring, Congressman Jones,
I'd like to ask the
DSWD?
SWD and NDRMC to help us out how we
Okay.
can really appreciate these vulnerable sectors.
Sir, for in behalf of the NDRMC and the Office of Civil Defense, sir, our working definition of internally displaced persons are people forced to flee their homes due to conflict, violence, disasters, or human rights violations, but remain within their own country's borders, sir. So within the Philippines, sir.
So there's no specific prerequisite duration for which in this by a person or a family by which this experiences all these circumstances that you have mentioned for it to be, say for example, in my case, IDP ako, halimbawa IDP after the incident, after several days or several weeks or several months, can I still be considered IDP if I haven't not reintegrated to my community?
Sir, as far as the Office of Civil Defense is concerned, as long as the person continues to be displaced from their original home or residence, they continue to be IDPs.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. In the case of the 6th District of Manila, I believe Chairman Abante have so many families residing in his locality which came from Marawi, which have not yet reintegrated to the area. So, based on your definition and the circumstance by which you have laid down to this committee, could this still be considered IDP in the RMC?
Sir, sorry, could you repeat the question, sir? Sorry.
Naku, ang haba ata nung tanong ko. Pero, Hindi po,
Sorry, sir.
so basically, hindi po sila nagre-reintegrate sa locality nila, original. So nakatira pa po sila sa distrito ni Chairman Abante. So can they still be considered as IDP?
Sir, as long as they continue, but sir, if they consider that they're permanent residents already, they're no longer displaced, sir. But if they still have an intention to return to their original displaced area or residence, they continue to be internally displaced persons, sir.
Thank you very much. CHR, would you agree to that definition or the explanation of NDRRMC?
Your Honor, for us, we have definition for the definition of the internally displaced person. For the CHR, it's almost the same, that those who are not reintegrated or hasn't returned home to the original place, then they are considered internally displaced persons. As to the intention, we have to check because that's a bit subjective, like how we establish their intention to return to their home. But as long as they are not reintegrated in their original home, they're considered internally displaced.
Yeah, thank you. I think, Madam, Mr. Chair, may I suggest to our guests, especially, NDRMC and perhaps the SWDT and CHR, so that we can come up with what is really in working definition of internally displaced persons, because according to the proposed measure of Congressman Bryan, it is it's very clear, specified under the vulnerable sectors that should be provided with adequate support from the government should these measures become a law. So I hope that our agencies can also sit down and come up with exactly, because there are also cases where families have already been employed in the area where they, where they supposedly temporarily residing, but then again, because of economic opportunities, they have already settled and actually been assimilated in the area they have chosen to reside, apart from going back to their original homes. No, I hope that you can also come up with the definition of that. I yield to Congressman Bryan before I proceed, Mr. Chair, with my further.
Go ahead, Congressman Bryan.
Mr. Chair, if I may just say a few words, this is exactly why it's important for the right to food to be recognized as a legal right. Because when, for example, these internally displaced communities now lobby for security in terms of, for example, food security, and we have leaders from these communities asking local government officials for support, it's nice that we would have a law that would legally recognize the right to this support and act as the trigger for national government to now step in and support local government. For example, when there are instances for example, Marawi, or even when there are major fires in Manila and there are communities that are displaced and can't go back right away, but need to secure food for their families, and it may sometimes be too big a burden. Or, for example, in the situation of Cebu, wherein it's one typhoon after another, after an earthquake and then another typhoon, they're not able to immediately address these concerns and need national support. And it's important for us to have this legal recognition. So the framework that we create in the technical working group is going to be very important for us to be able to set up that system in order to trigger national relief on this level. And I'm sure our friends from the DA and the DSWD would agree in this situation.
Let me ask a question to the NDRMC. So what is your mandate on this? What are you doing now? Considering that you have a listing of the internal displacement people. Do you have a current listing on that?
Sir, I don't know if we have current statistics on the IDPs in the Philippines, but sir, in the relation to this, sir, the NDRMC is composed of many agencies, sir. So one of the agencies involved is the DSUD, sir. They're primarily in charge of the housing for these internally displaced persons, sir.
Again, please, I'd like to just make it clear about what are you supposed to do with those people, actually.
Sir, For example, sir, once IDPs are identified, sir, for example, a natural calamity happens or a man-made calamity happens, sir, they're evacuated from the area of the calamity, sir, and they're provided, sir, with shelter or adequate medical assistance, sir.
So you help in the evacuation.
Yes,
You
sir.
help in the relocation.
Yes, sir.
And you help. But do you also coordinate with the other agencies?
Yes, sir. The NDRRMC coordinates all the agencies